When people think of the key elements that make Thomas the Tank Engine a great show, one of those elements is the narrator. Like any other TV show, the narrator holds a big responsibility in telling the story clearly and in a way of keeping its target audience's attention. Unless your show's name is Pippa Peg, where it treats everyone like they've been hit on the head by a metal pipe. Now, when fans ask the best or their favourite Thomas narrator, many different answers pop up. George Carlin, Ringo Starr, Michelangelos, just to name a few. I don't know if the same can be applied to other languages. However, I will say, the Italian dub's fine.
Hurrah! Hurrah! Fischiarono le locomotive.
Babidi boopy!
Gridò pallone gonfiato.
And the Japanese dub is just phenomenal. But when they're asked the weakest, or in some cases the worst narrator, who comes to mind? Surely it wouldn't be this middle-aged American actor living in Britain, right? Right? Now, I'm a firm believer that the answer for favourite narrator all comes down to regional bias. Of course, Brits are going to say Ringo or Angelos, and Yanks are going to say Baldwin or Carlin, but it seems that no matter what region you're from, people from all over don't seem to like this guy's narration. But I want to express my thoughts on his narration and why I think he deserves a little bit more respect. This is my defence for Michael Brandon. Before we learn why Brandon is so hated, we need to know a little bit about him. Michael Brandon is an American English actor, born on April 20th, 1945. His name may not be that well known in the US, but he is a familiar name in the UK, appearing in shows such as Dempsey and Makepeace, Tales from the Unexpected, and even later on in Doctor Who.
You're our only hope of finding the Doctor!
Now, his involvement with Thomas is sort of an interesting story, as it was during the transitional period when Hit Entertainment had acquired the show's rights. It's 2004 and season 8 is ready to go, but due to Alec Baldwin stepping down as the narrator from season 6, and I'd say for the better. Now look, hear me out. Some of his season 5 stuff is good. In fact, there are quite a few lines that I really like from him. But then you've got shit like,
hurry up, chuffed Gordon crossly.
Harold thinks he can go faster than me. I'll show him.
We engines run this island. Scary Jack Frost, cried James. Glug, 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 bluggle my broiler. No, I'm asleep. With cold cars in front of him and cold cars behind. But it wasn't my fault. Yuck, he groaned. I've never been this dirty. Bon Percy, we're out of hot air! Jack! Are you all right, Jack? Stop being pushy, Donald snapped. Oh, jeepers, exclaimed Percy. You wouldn't be fun if you were stuck up here. Oh, please, Salty, they chimed. Don't call me dirty. I can't take any more.
And Angela's temporarily recording the season 7 episodes on the New Friends for Thomas release, Hit were in need of a new American narrator.
Makes sense.
So they hired Michael Brandon.
An American? He's fast on the pickup, huh?
And he would go on to narrate the show until 2012, from season 7 to 16, making him the longest serving American narrator. Now we know how he got involved with Thomas, why do so many people hate his role as the narrator? Well, after some discussions with some friends, they've all come back with nearly the same answer. His voices that he gives some of the characters just don't fit them that well.
Whoa, shiver my boiler!
Also, I don't know about you, but Scarlowy just sounds like a South Park character.
How would you like to go see the school counselor?
Mr. Percival told him.
How would you like to suck my balls?
Cried Scarlowy. Ooh, said the troublesome trucks.
What did you say?
And for the fact that he always gets compared to the likenesses of the other narrators that came before him, which I feel like can be sort of unfair in a way, because that can be the case with a lot of things. The new isn't quite as good as the original. Sure, he lacked that stardom power that Ringo or Baldwin clearly had, but that shouldn't be taken into consideration. Look at Michelangelos. He wasn't really a big name, but people enjoy his narration, and I think the same can be applied to Brandon. So why do I defend Michael Brandon? Well, I have at least 4 reasons why I think so. In no particular order, they are as follows. Number 1, his voices. Now before you start screaming in the comments,
"Are you serious?" His voices are utter garbage. They just make the episodes more insufferable to sit through.
It's all fucking awful! It's all of it, and every single one of them sucks!
I want you to stop and think for a moment. What makes a good Thomas narrator? Having a good vocal range is one of them, and Brandon had that.
I actually did 63 different voices over the 8 years that I narrated Thomas.
This is going to take me a very long time, gasped Harvey.
Nobody likes to be made fun of by silly tank engines.
Taking vacationers on rides around the island is our job, wheezed James jealously.
There'll be a fierce storm on the way, Captain. I can only go back as far as the next station. Then Donald is in the way. Even an important engine like me needs help. Sometimes. The children race with eggs on spoons, said Bertie. It must be splendid to win a medal, chuffed Thomas. Good morning!
No matter how questionable or strange his choices for how character sounds can be, you have to at least give him credit for actually giving character voices. His diesel voice is just iconic.
I'm the fastest engine in the world, he boasted. Look at me go!
In fact, with that mentality, that would make Ringo the weakest narrator. Yet he's still admired by everyone because he's one of the Beatles, again proving stardom power. Mind you, it was the first 2 seasons, so he can get a little bit of a leeway from that. But it was more than what Angelus was doing at the time, which leads me into number 2. He did better than his colleague. What I mean by that is that Michael Brandon did a better job than Michael Angelus in the hit era. Keep in mind that they were about the same age when they were narrating the show. But the reason I think Brandon did better was because he was a new face as the role of narrator, compared to Angelus, who by the time season 10 came out, had been doing the role for about 15 years. So you can imagine he got sort of tired doing the same role for that long. Trust me, I've rewatched Thomas and the Tuba, and let me tell you, Angelus's narration was really bad. Brandon was the clear winner.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, I am nostalgic for this era, but listening to Angelus's tired narration just makes me realize more of the flaws. But with Brandon, for me at least, it makes the experience, whilst still dreary with the boring episodes, it makes it a little bit more tolerable. I think I'll let my buddy Niko explain this as someone who both defends the hit era and Michael Brandon.
Brandon. Oh, how I just love Michael Brandon's narration. Now, if I were to describe Brandon's narration in just one word, it would be energetic. Now, I just might be a little biased when it comes to expressing my love for Brandon's narration in the show. It couldn't be how I grew up listening to him narrating the entire hit era when I was just a little Yeen. Nah! Just take what I say about Brandon's narration with just a little grain of salt, okay? If there's one thing I enjoy about Michael Brandon's narration during the hit era, was just the amount of energy that he gave in the studio. Now listen, I understand that some of the voices Brandon gives aren't perfect. Narrogate engines.
I'm tired.
I agree that the voice direction could have used a little work with certain characters. But like, come on, you can't say that he didn't have a blast while recording. He generally sounds like he's having a good time. But the voices that Brandon provides for these 2 characters in particular are some of the best in the entire series. Drum roll, please. Gordon and Diesel. Now these characters I will always relate to Brandon's narration. The lines delivery that he gives these characters I can only describe as iconic. Hell, I still see myself quoting some lines like, "Watch me and look at me go!" to this day. The way Brandon voices these characters is just memorable, with his Gordon sounding very grand, proud, pompous.
Those freight cars are empty, Gordon huffed. I knew it couldn't be as important as the Express.
And his Diesel sounding oily, naive, tricky.
Sir Topham Hatt says I'm better than you, so I'm going to stay here.
With both Gordon and Diesel being Brandon's favorite characters, of course he's gonna absolutely provide the most energy and delivery for them. And that he certainly did. Speaking of which, Brandon's Diesel voice was so good that he kept doing the voice from the hit era till the end of the Nitrogen era. This would make him the only narrator to voice a character script while at the same time narrating the script in the show.
Look out, cried Diesel. The ghost engine is after your funnel.
Diesel was puzzled.
What's so special about your special?
Something else I always admired while listening to Brand's narration was him adding ad-lib for certain scenes.
And Thomas is the most stinky steamy ever, hooted Bert. Diesel, Harry and Bert laughed and laughed. It's not steamies who are stinky.
And Thomas is the most stinky steamy ever. Diesel, Harry, and Bert laughed and laughed. It's not steamies who are stinky.
The lines were the lines, but I thought when Thomas would go off the track, there was no sound. And I said, why can't Thomas go, whoa, 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 whoa? And that took a meeting to come to that agreement. Okay, let's try it. And I started to give more life to the trains, you know.
Overall, Michael Brandon is a Thomas narrator that I can just listen to over and over again, never getting bored. He genuinely loved narrating for this show, creating his own unique spin on voicing the characters that we love. He never sounded like he was doing it out of obligation from the company, nor did he quickly drop his energy after just a season. No. He kept the same energy from the start of his narration in 2004 with Series 8 till the end of his narration in 2012 with Series 16. A solid good 8 years of dedication to narrating a series he loved from the beginning. When it came to narrating the US and UK episodes, both Brandon and Angelus knew it was never a competition to see who was better. Both had great respect for one another, voicing the characters on the island of Sodor over the years in the same recording studio. And when Angelus sadly passed away in May of 2020, Brandon would put out a tweet saying his respects and farewell to his co-star friend. But hey, that's enough out of my old Yeener mouth. I've talked for far too long. I'll now pass the mic to the one, the only, Percy66C! Yippee!
Now, I know everyone completely bashes on Brandon for not being the best choice as narrator, but I'd argue his tone fits better with the episodes from Series 6 and 7. What, do you want bored as shit Baldwin narrating it? Honestly, like rewatching Make Someone Happy or some of the releases we watched in the Best of the Worst, it's kind of bad.
But the troublesome trucks had spotted a chance for a tease. I might not have new buffers, he said, but I still know how to biff troublesome trucks.
Okay, hear me out on this. Like, he works fine for the more lighthearted episodes, but when it comes down to episodes like Haunted Henry, Duncan Gets Spooked, a lot of the deliveries just doesn't feel right, and it pales in comparison to Angelus's delivery.
Oh, look, Henry's spooked, said a freight car.
Oh, look! Henry's spooked, said a truck, and the others giggled in their silly way.
It's the ghost! Take me back! Take me back, please!
It's the ghost! Take me back! Take me back, please!
I'm sorry, but like, his voices sound like the voices you do in a conversation to make another person sound even more obnoxious.
Engines are meant to take visitors around our island, not that whirlybird thing. He's counting how many engines he can get rid of. Sir Topham Hatt has chosen Harold because he thinks he's more important than me. Well, he's not.
And on rewatch, it really just sounds like he does not want to be there. Like, he could be doing anything better.
As Percy pushed them under the coat chute.
I feel like the reason why a lot of people praise him is because he was in the most action-packed series, and plus the majority of Thomas fans grew up with that series, not to mention a lot of his voices are the standard voices for people in fan projects.
Branch lines are just useless extensions of the important main line. That's all Sir Topham Hatt cares about. Ew.
Like, I get doing impressions are difficult, but come on, really? Now, you could argue that Brandon's voices are obnoxious, but at least that stays, like, consistent throughout his run, which, honestly, I commend him for doing.
Really?
And for what he was given, I say it was a pretty good job.
Last one there, puffs hot air, called Thomas. Son of a bitch.
This makes me appreciate the US dub a lot more. The changing of narrators makes every season feel more unique in a way. Number 3, the music. I'm just going to say this now, I am not a fan of Robert Harshorn's music composed for the hit era and Season 7's US dub. I'm sorry, but I may also be nostalgic for that music, but it absolutely pales in comparison to Mike and Junior's music. So I feel like this can sort of lead to why people don't like the narration for either dub, because it's overlaid with not good music. But what if you have the original Season 7 music and effects track? Well, that's what the DVD Thomas and the Jet Engine did. It has 3 Season 6 episodes with Baldwin, make of that if you will.
Naughty gnomes!
I'm sorry, but Tug calling this narration relaxed is so bullshit. Season 7 Angelus is more relaxed than this. But to fill out the release, they placed 3 Season 7 episodes with Brandon's narration, but to stay consistent, they kept the original Mike and Junior score, which is honestly one of the best ways to watch those episodes, and proves that Brandon can be good if there's good music to accompany him.
One day, Thomas and Percy were helping Salty at the docks. But Salty was worried.
Do you want to experience all of Season 7 like this? Well, in the description of this video, Tug has made an entire drive of every Season 7 episode with Brandon's narration and the original Mike and Junior M&E track for everyone to enjoy. And finally, number 4, his consistency. Michael Brandon is one of 3 narrators to keep his consistency in how he narrated the show. The only other 2 that the same can be said for is George Carlin and Mark Morahan, because in the cases of the others, Ringo got better, Baldwin got worse, and Angelus went in some sort of a roller coaster from good to shit and then back to good again. Maybe it was because he was only playing the part of the narrator when the CGI switch happened. That's my only explanation to why he went from sounding like this.
There is always something special to do or to see in the high hills.
To then sounding like this.
Thomas couldn't let Charlie be more fun than him. He pumped his pistons, bubbled his boiler, and fizzed his firebox. The race was on.
Being the voice behind Thomas and Friends holds a big responsibility, and I think each narrator understood that. They are narrating one of the biggest children's shows on the planet, so they need to provide a performance that suits the tone of the show, and I definitely think Michael Brandon fits into that category. He may not be my personal pick for favourite narrator.
Well, obviously.
But it doesn't mean he should be looked down on as a bad narrator, because he's far from it. Whilst his voices can be a bit weird,
why?
They still prove that he has a good vocal range. He had a clear and well-spoken tone, he sounded way more interested than his UK equivalent, but most importantly, he had the energy and spirit of a Thomas narrator, and that's the most important thing about this role. It's clear that Brandon had a lot of fun doing this job and loved what he did, which is why I think he definitely deserves more respect.
Thomas and Friends, making tracks to great destinations.
So in conclusion, Michael Brandon is not a bad narrator. He did better in the hit era than Michael Angelus and is overall a better narrator than Alec Baldwin. Thank you for coming to my Trev Talk.
So join the animatronics family. Red and green and brown and blue. Try your best to hold on to Sonic.
Go get him, Edward!